So as you might have already seen, and if you haven't after this video, you should totally go check it out. I've participated in the Beatles Reanimated map, or a Beatles Reanimated map, as in multi-animator project. This is the first MAP map. I don't know what they're called. Anyway, this is the first map that I've ever participated in. I tend to get really nervous before participating in projects like this, and I should have been very nervous because it ended up taking a lot more effort and time than I really had to give. But I thought that I could learn something from this, and I definitely did. At the end of this video, I'll include all of the animation progress shots along with screenshots of each of the frames. This video isn't a step-by-step, but if you want to learn from the actual process, the actual product, those will all be at the end of the video. So for anyone looking to get into animation or to do something similar, I have a list here of all of the mistakes that I made while jumping headfirst into this and the things that I liked. Anyway, just a collection of 5 tips based on the mistakes that I made and also things that I realized I did well. I'll keep it short and quick so that if anyone is preparing to get in over their heads just like I was, you can just watch this video and hopefully feel a lot better about it than I did. So the first mistake that I made was not framing this out in advance. As you can see from, actually, wait a minute. From this video, this is my sketch that I made, which I thought would be enough. I thought that just like sketching out the animation I wanted to make before I made it would be enough, but looking at the final product, I realized that there's a lot of dead space in this corner, and it tends to feel very empty. This corner is kind of blocked out by the bricks and the darkness and doesn't seem to draw your attention very much, plus the grate on the bottom here, but this area feels like super empty and super dry, and I really don't like how it looks. In the final version, as you can see here, actually, you can't see it here. As you can see here, I ended up putting a signature in the corner to sort of block out this part that I thought was so empty, and I added a lens flare up here to sort of draw the attention downward instead of to this empty corner. But that empty corner genuinely ended up haunting me for the entirety of this animation, and so if I was you, I would just advise you to just sketch out really quickly on some paper. It doesn't need to be long, it doesn't need to be complicated, it doesn't need to be detailed at all. Just sketch it out before you even put it to the storyboard, to the time frame. The second thing I would recommend, when I was doing this, I thought that the entire animation looked a lot smoother than it is in reality, which ended up completely screwing me over because I think I would have valued a lot from doing some smear frames. Really, genuinely, I think it could have been so much better if I had just done some smear frames instead of having these awkward blank spaces. It just feels like it could have been so much more smoother and less clunky if I'd done that, but by the time I was finished, it was already a bit too late. The timeline itself that I animated in was 12 frames per second, although the actual animation was exported in 24 frames per second, and I think that instead of doing this, just go for the 24 and don't be afraid to animate on 2s. I thought that it would be easier for me to just have the timeline on a lower frame rate, because I don't know why I thought that would be a good idea, but honestly, genuinely, just keep your timeline and your export on the same frame rate. You will regret it if you do it like I did. It ended up causing me so much unbelievable amount of stress when I was trying to export it and put it into Premiere Pro for final renders and everything. It was actually a nightmare. Please don't do what I did. And then that leaves more room for smear frames, because as you see, there's frames like this that end up being fine, but this looks just so choppy, and you know, having one smear frame in between here could have just been so important, or even just at the end here instead of just having them disappear. I don't know, there's so many different instances here where I thought I could have used with some genuine transition or smear framing. I'm mad that I didn't do it. Also, I'm just throwing into the middle of this video, sorry to interrupt, but I do have commissions open right now. I only have the big commissions that I do. They're $150 US for a full piece of work. Here are some examples. I have links on VGen, Ko-Fi, and you can also just DM me on any of my various socials where I post other work. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening. Something else that I don't really like when I'm looking back on this is the actual colors that I used. I think it helps a lot by the lighting I used, which is going to be like a sub tip. I guess this is the fourth tip, fourth and third together, I don't know, but I used lighting to sort of cover up the fact that I absolutely abhor the colors that I used. I don't know why I continue to use these super vibrant saturated colors. They don't even look that saturated, but I don't know, something about this background, everything just feels too smooth. Also ignore this inconsistency happening, but everything just feels so smooth. The background, it doesn't look rough like how I wanted it to. It doesn't look like it has texture, but I'm not familiar enough with how to draw backgrounds, and I feel like instead of drawing the background first and doing all of this, I should have been a bit more cohesive with how I worked with it, and maybe even planned out a color palette in advance. I think that that could have a lot of value, and it would save me a lot of time and effort color picking everything. So I guess at this point in the video, the current list of advice is to thumbnail everything out in advance. Make sure that your timeline and your export are in the same frame rate so that you can add smear framing, and definitely include smear framing in your sketches. Plan a color palette out in advance, and be careful with how you choose to light it because it can cover all of your mistakes. As you can see in the final export, I have a lens flare here to sort of, draw some eyes, make it look a little bit more professional. And I also have a blue multiply layer covering this side and a yellow lighting layer covering this side. So it's like the shadow from the brick. You're running from the shadow of the brick into the light of the houses in the open street. So when you're thumbnail sketching, include light sources and make sure to be open to, having fun with it, be creative, but also just make sure that you do simple lighting at minimum. It can really change the whole piece and cover up any of the stupid mistakes that you look at and make you want to cringe, because that definitely happened to me, and I'm very thankful that I did it the way that I did, because there were some points of this where I really thought it was going to look much worse than it actually did. And my final tip, which might make some people mad, is genuinely just have fun with it. For example, this walk cycle with the barber, I have him sort of like leaping. I don't know why I did it the way that I did it, but he is sort of just leaping around, and when he lands on this guy, he lands with this perfect standing up straight moment. And I had so much fun sketching out all of their goofy walk cycles and trying to give each of them a personality. And this guy, I had so much fun animating him. It just made me laugh so much. I didn't even care how it looked. I just, I looked at him and I wanted to make him look funny and goofy. And at the end of the day, I genuinely think that having fun with what you're animating, making yourself laugh, is super important. At least for me, some of the biggest advice when it comes to animation in general is not to take myself too seriously, because I tend to get caught up in the details when I'm trying to make something brilliant. But when I just have fun with it, it really does make a lot of difference when it comes to my desire to finish it and also just the end product. I totally understand wanting to live up to that image in your head of some great piece of work that you spent all of this time making, and now you're brilliant and you can put it in your portfolio and everyone loves it, and you just build up this image in your head of this grand product, when in reality you might end up with a much better product if you just let yourself live it. Just put it on the page, have fun with it, don't overthink it. That's definitely what I did here, and in some instances I think that screwed me over, like with the framing, but at the end of the day, if I had spent too much more time on this, it would have never gotten finished. And as you can see, there are plenty of inconsistencies happening that I kind of wish I could change in retrospect, but I've already uploaded it and I can't do anything about it, so we're just gonna move on like nothing happened. And this is definitely how it's supposed to look. I timed the sketch directly with the original clip so that I could make sure I had the timing right. When it comes to the walk cycles, I copied and pasted, for the minor characters, I copied and pasted the top half and then went in to do the legs afterwards. Those, I just have gotten really comfortable doing walk cycles after doing them a couple times. It takes a little bit of getting used to if you've never done one, but if you have done them, it's the same process as always. For Paul himself, I sketched it out more carefully beforehand and sketched out some models and had a lot of references up while I did it. I actually really don't like how it looks, but as you can tell, I sort of bunched each motion up into twos for every single frame except for the final guy, the trumpet player. For that, I kind of just used a bunch of anticipation frames and like follow through. So it's where when you're doing an action, you do one slightly reversed version of the action, and after the action is done, you do one slightly later version. So when you're doing a bit of a quick turn like this, you can kind of end up combining them a little bit. It worked out really well for me here and tends to work out for me in general. For coloring, I turned the line art layer into a reference layer on Clip Studio Paint, and then I used the paint bucket tool under refer to all layers and just color blocked in all of the colors on another layer. And then I went through and I colored all of the line art, and then I did the usual steps that I do for all of my pieces with lighting layers on top. I went through and exported it, and then I did all of the editing within Premiere Pro for the lens flare and adding the background and all of that good stuff. So yeah, that's the process. So anyway, I know that this was a relatively short video. I didn't want to spend too much time on this, but I wanted to share my process just in case anyone was going through something similar or just wanted to hear me yap about this. I'm really proud of being a part of a project like this. One, because it's the Beatles and I love the Beatles, but also because I'm just proud to be part of a multi-animator project. I've never done one of these, and I've spent so much time watching people do them and thinking about, oh, I would do this, I would do that, and it's just an honor to be a part of it. If you haven't already seen the video, definitely go check it out. And I've already got the next video in the work, and I will also be announcing the 1,000 subscriber Draw This in Your Style. So thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. I hope that, you know, this was a nice little insight into the way that I approach my art, and I hope everyone has a good day. I will see you guys next time. Goodbye!